Hi, everybody. Welcome once again to the Stevie B Show. As always, I'm Stevie B. Well, I have a very special guest for you today, and a lot of you may not probably know about this, but the Actors Union, SAG-AFTRA, is currently on strike at the moment. The strike has been going on for about 104 days now, but I have three guests who are actually board members from the SAG-AFTRA chapter, the New England chapter of SAG-AFTRA. I want to introduce to you Andrea Lyman, who is the president of the SAG-AFTRA New England chapter. How are you?
Fine, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. And Bill Mudos, who is a board member of the New England chapter, and also Dale Apple, who is another board member of the SAG-AFTRA New England chapter. Guys, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Now, I just wanted to talk about, as we know, the strike is going on right now. It has been going on for 104 days. Can you tell us a little bit, what caused your union to go on strike?
Okay. I'm going to let Bill have that one.
Okay, just to let you know, this local of New England is part of the greater national union. We are on strike, but it is for one contract specifically. It's our TV theatrical contract, and that is probably our biggest contract. It covers pretty much all major network and streaming television, movies that are released in movie theaters, and all streaming services. So it is that one contract, but that is a huge contract, and we've been on strike, as you said, for a little over 100 days. The issues are many. We renegotiate our contracts every 3 years. And the big issues that emerge this time, aside from our cost of living increases, which we normally expect, but they haven't kept up with the rate of inflation, so that is one issue. Another is artificial intelligence, where the producers are more and more relying on AI to sort of duplicate human voices and images.
That seems to be the sticking point, right? AI?
One of them.
It's one of them.
Yeah. Another issue is residuals, where we get paid based on, in the past, when we do a film, let's say, it moves from a movie theater. Many years ago, it would go to network TV, then maybe to pay cable, basic cable, DVD. What tends to happen now is if it's produced by a streaming service like Netflix, it will often just stay on Netflix, and therefore more and more people can see it, but we don't necessarily get more money because it's all directly marketed, produced, and
so you don't
viewed.
get residuals. That's the thing when it goes on Netflix.
There is a
or
residual
Disney
structure,
Plus.
but it does not. It's not what it should be. We don't get paid appropriately for our work when it's on that streaming service. From now to next year to infinity. It's not a good formula.
Yeah. I said, I talked to some friends of mine, and they said, why are you guys on strike? You're actors. You're millionaires. And that's not, why do you need more money? They say, but you got to tell them, like myself, and like all of us, right? Even though I'm SAG eligible myself, but a lot of actors are way below the
more than 80%. It's maybe 85% that don't make enough to get our health insurance, which you need to make, 26.
26. It's 226,
a little over $26,000 a year to qualify for our health insurance. And it's 85% that do not of our members do not make enough money to qualify for health insurance. And the ones that did sure aren't now because they haven't been working. So there's just a small, think of another kind of a company. Think of say, an insurance company. When you see an insurance company, there's the top CEOs that are making tons and tons and tons of money, but most of the people are, the clerks, the salespeople, all of those. They're not making the millions of dollars. And with ours, because our industry is something where you see our faces and you see the faces of the famous people, people just make the assumption that's everyone. Whereas the insurance company, you're really not going to see most people's faces, but ours is all about our faces. So everyone thinks, we know, I recognize that person, so they must all be making those millions, which we're not.
No, you guys are not. I did some research. I looked up and I found out the head of Time Warner gets paid $56 million a year. and I'm getting like, you can't use that money to pay your actors and everything. $56 million a year. I mean, it's the same with what's his name from Disney, the Walt Disney Company. I mean, I think, like I said, I mean, I support you guys. I really appreciate it. But before we get into that, I'd like to know a little bit about you guys, about a little bio about you. Dale, when did you get into acting, and what motivated you?
I wanted to major in theater arts when I was in college, but my parents wouldn't let me go to school unless I became a teacher. But I took modern drama, I took Shakespeare, practical theater arts. As an English education major, I could fit that in my schedule. But then I never did anything with it professionally, only, as a college student, until 2007, when another one of our board members, Don Warnock, who was a friend of mine, talked me into going to an open call for a movie that was being produced here in Massachusetts at that time. I can't advertise or promote any AMPTP films, so I will not give you titles. But I went on that open call, and lo and behold, I was booked by Billy Dowd, and I loved it. And I got booked again for something in the fall through Boston Casting. And then I took a job because I said, I love this, but I need stable work because I have a mortgage to pay and bills to pay. But I hated what I was doing, and I ended up going between jobs, started doing this, loved it, started doing this as my main job. Somewhere around 2009 or 2010, I was doing nothing but acting, even though it was background in indie films for the most part. And in 2011, I earned my way into the union. And I got involved with the union by helping with the conservatory committee, which Andrea chairs. And that's how I got hooked on being involved in my union from the beginning.
Yeah. I just want to remind the audience that because of the strike, my guests can't tell what they worked on in order to, because they can't advertise it. So if you don't hear what they're getting about, that's the reason why, until the strike is over. But I just want to get a bit like Bill. I mean, did you always want to be an actor yourself, or what's your background?
Yeah, like a lot of kids, I really got into it in school. My interest in theater in particular grew as I went into high school, and I decided by the time I was a senior, there were a lot of things I was interested in, but I really wanted to try playwriting and acting, and so I ended up going to a very good theater school. Trained in stagecraft and theater there, doing all kinds of plays and different types of projects there. And when I got out in the real world, I started doing theater professionally and really enjoyed that. I got very busy as a theater actor, but along with that came some film auditions, and I started doing some non-union commercials and films. And pretty quickly ended up joining SAG and AFTRA, which are two unions that merged. We used to be Screen Actors Guild and the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. We merged back in 2012, thankfully, because we covered a lot of the same work. And I've worked steadily ever since. I do a lot of theater, I do a lot of film, and keep myself busy pretty much making a living off my acting work.
And I just want to say, Bill, you gave me some great advice a couple of years ago, and I thank you for that. I really do. Andrea, like I said, you can't mention, but how did you get started in performing? If you say what you can.
I was pretty much born wanting to be in theater. I mean, I really mean that truthfully. My mom said as an infant, I would sing. I would coo and sing, and neighbors would come by to hear because they'd never heard an infant sort of singing. And so, yeah. And then when I got a little older, my mother would read, this is the younger folks won't understand this, the liner notes on the albums. And it would tell
I know
the
what the
stories.
liner notes are.
Yeah. And so I would imagine I would just do those shows in my living room, and with my friends we would put on shows. And then, of course, that morphed into majoring in musical theater at Boston Conservatory.
Oh,
Yep.
Wow.
Went to New York, did shows there. and did a show at Radio City Music Hall, the Christmas show. And from the Christmas show and the Easter show, we did a commercial for the show. And also we did the Christmas tree lighting, which was a television special. And that's how I got into SAG and AFTRA, because at that time they were separate. And then after Radio City Music Hall and other shows, I started doing movies and television and all of that. It was we were not the Rockettes, but we sang and danced with the Rockettes.
Oh.
So we were called the New Yorkers. And when you see the Christmas show, there's people playing all. Oh, Jane Krakowski was in the show that I was in. She was a little girl.
Oh my goodness!
And because they did a little thing on Christmas Carol, and she was one of the kids. So, and I love doing that. I'm lucky that I sing and dance because I can do my that show when I'm not doing filming.
That's great. Like I got interested in acting myself when I graduated high school. I guess the acting bug bit me like as a kid watching movies and tried to as my voiceover work. I'm an announcer and everything like that, and I got SAG eligibility. Well, I can't say what it is, but I was a stand-in for a show. That's how I got it. So I haven't decided yet to join or not because I keep hearing so many different things. Like if you're from Massachusetts, it's not good to join, or if you have to go to New York or LA. But now since you guys are SAG-AFTRA, because of the strike, has it really affected your work and your economically? Like how have you managed to?
It's affected the work, but there's still work that we can do. As Bill said, we can still do commercials. We can do corporate videos, training videos. So all of that stuff we can do. We can do films that are under a different kind of contract.
Cable access shows?
Or the micro-budget agreement. Like I did a film of a friend of mine's, Liz Ng, who's also on the board.
Oh, I know Liz.
Okay.
I do. I met her.
So her film Plus Ones was done under a micro-budget agreement, and that's touring film festivals. I did another film for another member called Giovanni, whose film is about Negro Election Day, which I didn't even know existed.
Oh.
Wow.
So apparently, in the 1700s, they used to have an election day, and this is when with some people who were enslaved and some people who were free, and they would elect a person that did all of the political stuff. They'd either be called king or a governor. And so this film is about the first king of Election Day, Negro Election Day. And they have a celebration every year.
You can talk about it.
Because that's under a micro-budget agreement.
Oh, okay.
It's not
And
struck
so
work.
I'm doing that, and I'm about to do a film about Ellen Garrison, who's another historic character.
Wow.
These people do films, the Burton sisters do films about half the history, about women in history that you've never heard of. Like people are going, Ellen Garrison, who's that? And that's why. And so they're doing a film about
I'm
it.
looking forward to that. I really like to see that. Bill, what have you been up to, if there's anything you can say during this?
Sure, yeah. I've had, we have a couple of films, probably more than that, in New England that have signed what we call an interim agreement where the producers that were striking, the American Motion Picture and Television Producers, AMPTP, they cover a lot of the really big budget films and TV shows and streaming. They're the ones we're striking. Anybody who is not a member of that entity can produce a film. They need to get a special agreement from the union to ensure that they are going to abide by the terms that we are.
Like Taylor Swift's film.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I will curious. It's like I wanted to ask you one thing. Like when a musician like Taylor Swift or Sam Smith would perform at a concert, are they not crossing the picket line when they do that? Because technically, they're all
She signed an interim agreement, which is fantastic. So her film that's going out is under an interim agreement, which means she's going to abide by. She has agreed to abide by all of the terms that would have had they signed would have been after the last talk.
Yeah.
Did I say
That goes
correctly?
to show that.
So she's doing that.
That should, and when she does that, and when other people do that who are even less well known and less wealthy than she is, what it is showing the world, as well as the AMPTP, that it is financially feasible to make films under these terms successfully.
Wow. The thing is, I've noticed, I'm a big fan of, I can say it, Saturday Night Live, and they are, I
a
guess,
different
Different
contract.
different contract, but aren't, like I said, all the actors SAG-AFTRA, the cast members, I think. So
Yeah,
It's network
It
code, the
doesn't
net
matter
code.
because it is a entirely different agreement that is one, the network code, as Dale just mentioned. That covers daytime drama, talk shows,
You mean like
some
soap
reality
operas and everything? Oh.
Yeah, some
Yes.
reality
Yeah.
TV, that sort of skit type television like Saturday Night Live. So those actors, they are members of SAG-AFTRA, but they are working on an agreement that is separate from the one we are striking.
Sort of like those ones I mentioned, the small
Student
films
film.
that
Yeah.
that I was. Those aren't student films, but the films that I mentioned, and same thing with commercials. So it's not that we can't do anything.
Yeah.
It's that we can't do the things under that specific contract with those specific folks.
Oh.
You know, so these are the studios and streamers, the big wigs.
Because I noticed that their past three guests were musicians and stand-up comics, and they can't.
No, because Pedro was on. Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, but
right.
is he allowed to be on? No, that's the thing.
Yes,
I-
because
oh.
it's a different contract.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's like if I
It
did a
just gets
commercial.
it gets confusing to me sometimes.
Yeah, I
so-
know. It would be confusing because you think to yourself, oh, it's on TV, but there's different contracts. And when you think about it, it sort of makes sense because Saturday Night Live is not really like other shows that you might see
Yeah.
on network TV.
Yeah. Well, okay. We're going to show some footage. This is going to be this is the SAG-AFTRA rally you had at Boston Common, and you're going to see a bit
We
of.
had two.
We had two
You had
there.
two?
Yes, we had
Okay.
one at the Embrace. That was our very first rally, and it was short notice. Had been on strike maybe a week or two, and Naheem Garcia, a member, spoke at that one, and then we had a big one a few weeks later, maybe months later.
Was that the one you were
That's a-
marching from? Like
No, that was the
That was a
downtown
different
crossing.
one.
the downtown.
Labor Day.
I went to the downtown crossing one.
That was
Yeah.
Labor
and I
Day.
went,
Labor
that was
Day
Labor Day.
Council.
And I went to the one with
Tom
this-
Bergeron?
Tom Bergeron. I mean, he had a great speech. I mean,
Yes.
Yes.
we'll see if we see it, but
And Elizabeth Warren, Senator Warren, went to
Senator
two
Warren.
of them. Two
Yeah.
of our rallies she spoke.
I saw a lot of my friends there, like my friend Kim Nemi and Kayla.
Oh, Kim's
I love
fantastic.
Kim's
Kim.
great. Kim's great. She's given me a lot of good advice.
And
over
she
the
made a
years.
video for all of us.
Yes, she
And
did. I mean, two videos, actually.
I actually saw the video, and I think before we leave, we're going to show that video.
Oh, great.
And I saw it last night. I loved it. I said I got to have it on the show, so we're going to show that video. Before
There were
we
two
go.
of them that she made with us in it.
Okay, so let's sit back and enjoy this footage here from the SAG-AFTRA rallies.
Thanks.
So the New England chapter of SAG-AFTRA tell me that they believe there is power and unity, which is why they gathered here at the Common earlier this afternoon and raised their voices for better pay and better protection for actors and screenwriters. Negotiations between actors, writers, and major studios and streaming services have stalled. Now, one main point of contention is the use of artificial intelligence. Union members with the New England chapter, who have played roles in movies filmed in the area say they worry about the use of the technology and fear being replaced by AI, saying they do not have a current contract that spells out their rights when it comes to the use of their image.
Here in Boston, a lot of the majority of the work is in doing background. And if you're gonna replace all the background actors with one AI, you're gonna wipe out hundreds and hundreds of people's opportunities to make a living.
This ongoing strike is the first in more than 6 decades where both actors and writers joined forces on the picket line. The New England chapter of SAG-AFTRA does plan to organize more rallies like the one today soon as negotiations continue.
To get along with each other, we are in this fight to win. And we know what it takes to win. I want to give a very special thanks to Steve Tolman, president of the Massachusetts AFL-CIO.
I have to tell you, it is wonderful to be back in Boston, but it's particularly wonderful to look out and see all of you because you're actual human beings. AI, CGI, all that crap. You know, I want to echo a comment that Senator Warren and other speakers have made, because if the studios were using real intelligence instead of artificial intelligence, they would realize that shareholders and yacht salesmen are not the beating heart of the entertainment business. AI is only, and its abuse is only one of the reasons we're all out here. Another big reason is that streaming services have turned the business upside down. A few years ago, a friend of mine told me that every season of one of the shows that I've hosted, which I will not promote right now, would be available on streaming. And I had a sort of Tony the Tiger response. I went, that's great. And he said, you say that until the residual checks show up. So I brought one. It's for a penny. In the world of streaming, my career's not even worth 2 cents. And it came in an envelope with the 60 cents. They could have Venmo'd me the damn penny. But in all seriousness, we are at a crucial crossroads right now. And because of that, it made me think of the words of somebody else who's spent a lot of years here in Massachusetts and New England, the poet Robert Frost. The last few lines of his classic poem, The Road Not Taken, read like this. I shall be telling this with a sigh somewhere, ages and ages hence. 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. I truly believe that even though it is challenging, we have taken the right road.
Wow. Yeah. Like I said, I attended both rallies, and it was really a lot of fun, you know. And the funny thing was, interesting story, I was at a place in Malden called Pearl Street Station, and somebody came up to me with their phone, and they said, Steve, is that you? And I looked, I'm on Channel 5. I'm like, oh boy, Steve, you're famous. I'm like, no, I'm not. I just was in the crowd. I had a sign, you know, I support, like I said, I support you guys. I really do.
Thank you.
The rise, you know, like I said, but I really appreciate it. So with this, now, can I have your opinion? Like Fran Drescher, we all know is the nanny, is the president. I know we're not supposed to discuss politically, but I mean, when she became president, how do you think she's doing?
Fantastic. She embodies easy to work with, hard to fight. And that is like our motto for
Yes.
SAG-AFTRA. Easy to work with, hard to fight. And that's exactly, she's a velvet hammer.
I just can't picture. I mean, I think
She's
this.
fabulous.
Oh, I love her. I love her. You know, how you doing? I'm Fran Drescher. No, I used to watch.
And that's why they underestimate her.
I know she's very good. Who was the president before?
Gabrielle.
Gabrielle Gutierrez.
Yes,
yes.
Gutierrez.
Yeah, I liked her and Sue. But now, when this show airs, we don't know when this strike will end. And my question is, how long do you think it'll last? And also, what is the most thing that you hope to negotiate with the AMPTP?
Well, I'll answer the first one, which is I hope that as we get off of this, we see on our phones that they have come to an agreement. And then it would go to our national board, which Bill is on, and then they would vote, and then it goes out to the membership to ratify. So I hope we get off this and we say, oh my goodness, they've come to an agreement.
Yeah, and that process would take between coming whenever the agreement comes and then voting on the national board, which would happen pretty quickly, whether to recommend it to our members. It would then be 30 days once it goes out to members before the ballots are counted. And so that, we're talking about a good month and a half at least, I think. So,
But the sticking point, I think, is the AI thing, isn't it, in a way?
We have
but
4
not the
sticking
only.
points.
What are the 4 sticking points? Let our audience know.
Well, the one that Bill didn't quite get to yet was self-tape. So the way we audition has totally changed. We used to go into a casting office, audition, and then, they'd look at it and whatever. Because pandemic happened and people
Yeah,
were shut
COVID.
in, we started sending in self-tape. So you'll do a tape at
Yeah,
home
I
for
did
the
a couple of
audition
those a couple
and
times.
send it in. Well, because that was new, some folks kind of lost their minds about what they were asking for in the self-tapes, and they would ask for people to do things like, oh, do this while driving your car, do this up on a ladder, or here's 15 pages and we would like this tomorrow. And so with the self-tapes, we're trying to rein it in a bit so that it makes more sense. Like, you don't need 15 pages in 24 hours. You're not going to get your best. And you really would know in the first few pages whether you want that actor. But the thing is, they'll ask for it, and then maybe they're only watching a couple of minutes of it, not the whole thing, but that actor has had to do all of that stuff. So we're just trying to rein it into a normal amount,
I know,
So-
it was hard. I had to have somebody read to me the part I was going to. I didn't get it. I have to be honest, I'm not really a big fan of it. I like going to the people and just go right to their
I
faces,
think
but-
that's out of that what is it they say?
That
It's out of
train
the
has left
box?
the
Yes, Yeah, I
station.
don't think we're going to go back to that fully again because it's so much easier for them to do that and they can see people from all over. But you can have it so that we don't have 15 pages, so it's maybe
Yeah.
5 pages, and you don't, and they don't have people do dangerous things.
Exactly. Safety considerations have got to be built in, because there was somebody that was looking for people driving a car with their dog in it and somehow filming yourself.
Yeah, so
That's
those
kind of
things.
hard, isn't it?
Well, that's kind of dangerous. And
yeah,
extremely
that is
dangerous.
dangerous.
it might even be illegal, I think,
No, I-
because you're not supposed to have your phone on that. It isn't.
No, I never. I
But
never.
one thing that's important that Andrea kind of touches on, first of all, as she was saying, that the 4 key things that we've touched on are artificial intelligence, increases, standard wage increases, residuals, and the self-tapes. And just to put that in context, when we're given an audition, we need to basically have our own equipment to film it. We need to find or make a makeshift studio in our houses, usually, of something to film it in, study the script, prepare it, dress appropriately, find a reader, somebody to read the script with you. It's very detailed
Yeah.
and takes a lot of time and effort. And you might be doing a few of these in a week, and you're not getting paid for any of them. So it's we're trying to, as Andrea said, rein it in so that the expectations with an audition can be much more reasonable and manageable for the actor. I think that's something that's certainly not too much to ask, and of the 4 things, it's probably the easiest to achieve, but we'll see what our negotiators are able to do with our producers, because the producers can have a totally different opinion of what they want. So that's part of the negotiating process, is finding what is we're able to compromise on, and solutions to make it easier and more beneficial for all people involved.
That's great. Well, before we wrap up, I'd like to show this one last video that my friend Kim Nemi actually made with a lot of the SAG AFTRA. She's the best of the two. And actually, Kim was the one who read my line when I did that self tape, and it was nice. She's a good person, and we're going to show that. Those. It has not only Kim, but my friend Kayla. We all know Kayla, who's been on the show before. So sit back and enjoy this great video by my friend Kim Nemi.
My name is Andrea Lyman.
My name is Liz Ng.
My name's Jay Street.
Celeste Oliva, Janine Robinson,
Kate Jurdy.
Michelle Proud,
Brian J. McDonald,
And I'm the New England local president of SAG AFTRA.
I am a member of SAG AFTRA.
I'm a member of SAG AFTRA.
I'm a member of SAG AFTRA.
I'm a member of SAG AFTRA.
I am a member of SAG AFTRA.
I'm a member of SAG AFTRA.
SAG AFTRA is the combined union of the Screen Actors Guild and the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists.
SAG AFTRA is still on strike.
People say to me, isn't the strike over?
The writers' strike
is over.
But SAG-AFTRA is still on strike until a fair contract is received.
One of the questions I'm often asked is, are you a part of that strike in LA?
Does the strike in Hollywood affect you?
People don't realize our union has members in multiple markets across the United States.
New England is one of 25 SAG-AFTRA locals nationwide.
Our union has roughly 160,000 members.
And yes, this strike affects most of us.
In New England, our actors work in TV, film, and more.
Under SAG-AFTRA contracts as
background actors,
day players,
recurring characters,
guest stars,
and even series regular roles in New England and other union markets.
We are all fighting for a fair contract.
But people often ask, isn't this just millionaire actors trying to make more millions?
Definitely not.
I wish I was a millionaire.
Most members of SAG-AFTRA,
over 80%, don't earn enough annually to qualify for the union's health plan.
That minimum is $26,470.
And most actors don't make that much annually.
even with multiple guest star roles per year.
Part of the reason why our earnings have decreased drastically is because how we are paid for streaming is very different from how we are paid for film and TV.
Streaming companies like
Netflix,
Hulu,
Apple TV Plus,
Amazon Prime Video,
Paramount Plus,
Disney Plus,
Max, HBO,
Peacock, and more offer viewers a lot of content.
but they don't offer fair residuals.
Even though the CEOs of the tech companies and studios that run them make hundreds of millions in profit.
Meanwhile, actors receive next to no residuals for these projects.
What are residuals?
That's a question I get a lot.
Residuals? Oh boy.
People ask me, why should you get paid more than once for the same job?
There are many reasons.
But the biggest one is this.
Every time the networks, studios, and streaming services sell a movie to a new market.
Such as a blockbuster summer movie that airs on television.
Or a network TV series that's added to a streaming service.
Those companies make money.
Since actors don't work every day.
Some actors may not work for a year or more.
Residuals help provide income between film and TV jobs.
And since we create the product,
Bringing revenue to the companies.
It makes sense. We should get a percentage of that revenue.
Without us, they have no product to sell.
But streaming services literally pay pennies in residuals.
All while CEOs make millions in salary and bonuses.
All we're asking for is our piece of the pie.
57 cents per subscriber per year.
Less than a postage stamp.
We're also fighting for AI protections.
The studios want to use AI to scan our likenesses and our voices to be used in perpetuity.
That means forever.
After paying us only for the 1 day of work required to scan us.
Is there anybody in the world who would agree to work just a single day?
So they could be replaced and never work or be paid for that work again?
Even the studio CEOs?
Yeah, that one is a real head scratcher.
We're literally fighting for the survival of acting as a career.
And the outcome will affect many other industries as well.
Though the Writers Guild recently made a solid new deal with the AMPTP.
That's the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers.
AKA the studios, networks, and tech companies that own the streamers.
We are still fighting for a fair deal.
And we hope you now understand more about the why.
If you're a fan of TV, film, streaming content,
Or actors.
We hope you'll share this information on social media.
To get the word out that actors in New England are part of Hollywood.
We are one union.
We are all one union.
We are all one union.
One union.
We are one union.
We are one union.
We are all SAG-AFTRA.
We are all SAG-AFTRA.
We're all SAG-AFTRA.
And we can't wait to be back to work.
Telling amazing stories.
And entertaining all of you.
Is that a wrap? Perfect. Bye.
Well, that was great. I liked that, having all those actors right there and seeing Kayla and Kim, it was it's really nice. But, guys, so now that, I understand you can't talk about it, can you tell anything you can do future-wise that you can tell us, or is it pretty much quiet from this point on?
For me, I'm doing theater. Luckily, I just finished 2 shows over the summer, and I have 2 things that I'm going into starting in December. So that will,
That's awesome.
Very fortunate, because that's not easy work to get either, but it will keep me occupied, and hopefully we'll see more of those interim agreement films where we can audition for those, and commercials. I just had a commercial audition the other day, so hopefully some of that stuff will pick up too.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. Dale, anything you can say that you're allowed to say? Or
I haven't. I did a piece of theater this past spring, but it was, it was just a short one shot. We're doing it this one day type of thing.
Oh.
Maybe it was 2 days. I forget already. It was like back in March, but it was before we even went on strike. But I personally don't even have something that's definite coming out. They had things that I was supposed to do, but then the writers went on strike in May, and so those were cut out. I am hoping that when the agreements are signed, that some of the things that I was supposed to do will come back and we'll be able to do it. Not just for myself, but for my fellow SAG-AFTRA members who also would find work from those projects.
Yeah, the last thing I did, I can't say what it is, but I was an extra, right? And there was a scene in which I was in that I had to run to a certain area, and I fell. And I broke my radial bone in my left. Oh my
goodness!
It was back in March, and it still hurts. I mean, I guess when you're my age, things don't tend to heal faster because it still hurts. But like I said, I've been an extra for so long. I want to get away.
It happened on set?
Yes, it happened on set. Like I said, I can't say what it was, but it's a long story. I'll tell you about it off camera. Okay. But anyway, Andrea, is there anything you can add with you're allowed to say?
Yeah, I can say it because it's not film. So as a singer, my busiest season is coming up.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of singing gigs, November through December. And you know how people go, "Oh my God, it's Christmas already in the stores." And for me, it's like gigs already. Yes. So I'm that one person that's happy when the holiday stuff comes early because it means I get more and more gigs. So I just booked another one today. So
that's awesome.
That's
now, if people want to learn more about the strike, what's the website they can go to for that?
It's easy. SAGAFTRAstrike.org.
SAGAFTRAstrike.org, and it'll say where
all kinds of stuff, where picketing is happening, what's new, there's photos, anything you want to know, what our points are, everything's there at SAGAFTRAstrike.org.
There's also a toolkit for anybody that wants to support the actors' strike, even if you are not an actor yourself, but you want to support it. At the website, you can find all sorts of ways that you can participate by social media. If you want to come and help at a rally or a protest or anything like that, it's all there, and they have a schedule, and you can certainly support us as much and as often as you want.
And just click on New England if you're living in New England. But if you're going to be in New York next week, you can put in New York or California if you're going to be there and you want to help support the actors, because we are the storytellers.
Definitely. Like I said, I support you guys in your fight. I really hope you get what you want in this contract. I hope the strike ends soon. If I can attend a rally, I'd be more than happy to. But, guys,
you're helping right now.
I'm happy, so just to let people know what's going on. People are wondering what's going on. Like, a lot of people are not. I mean, just one last question before we go. Before it was a merger, right? SAG-AFTRA. The Screen Actors Guild was the first one. How long has it been in existence, and who started it? Can you tell me that?
90 years ago.
90 years ago. Wow.
I believe this is the 90th anniversary of our Screen Actors Guild.
Yeah,
Correct
I
me
haven't
if I'm
counted.
wrong.
I remember when it was 75. I think that was back in '08. So this could easily be the 90th. Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know the age of AFTRA. Does anybody? Which is the American Federation of
yeah.
Radio and Television Artists.
It started as AFTRA when it was just radio, and then they added TV into it. So it might actually have predated Screen Actors Guild. But there were a number of founders for Screen Actors Guild. There was, as I recall, Ralph Morgan. Probably the most famous was James Cagney.
James Cagney. Wow.
Yeah, a number of other. It was a very impressive group of, I don't know if it was like 12 or so people that were on the first board of directors, and they really did an amazing job, because at that time there was the studio system and actors were being very exploited by the studios. And so back then, of course, they saw the need to organize and to protect themselves.
Thinking, not like now.
Not like
the studios.
So
Imagine.
That was back sort of in the heyday of unions when a lot of them were being formed. And because of them, we've actually got protections that are still in existence today, and we've been able to build on them. And it is... just like for Actors Equity Association for stage actors, it is what allows people to this date to make a living doing this. When you mentioned, people think it's a Hollywood strike, there are 160,000 members roughly in the country. Here in New England, we have somewhere around 3,500 members. And the people that are household names are just a tiny, tiny fraction. It's the 99% outside of that are protected mostly by our minimum agreements.
Yeah.
And that is sort of what we depend on nowadays to make a living at all. If we didn't have it, nobody would be able to make a living, because the producers wouldn't bother to pay benefits or the money that any of the actors are worth.
Yeah.
And I want to include broadcasters in there too. It's not just actors. We have recording artists, stunt people, dancers, singers, broadcast, entertainment, and news. So it's a good number of categories in there.
Wow. Well, guys, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciated answering questions that I had. And if you want to know more about the latest news on the strike, go to sagaftrastrike.org. And if you want to go to the regular SAG-AFTRA website, it's sagaftra.org. You can find all the info you want about it. And if you do want to help, as a person who, I have union running my family. I have a cousin in New York who's a Teamster, and I have my father was a bricklayer, and he was a member of the Bricklayers Union. So I'm a union person. I've always been, and I like I said, I support you guys. I wish you all the luck. I hope you get everything you need for. I want to thank you once again. I want to thank my guest, Andrea.
Thank you.
And I want to thank Bill. And I want to thank Dale. You guys have been great. So that's all I have for the Stevie B Show. So until next time, have a good night, and we'll see you soon.